Hey guys, thanks for listening again. I'm here because there's been a lot of news today about marijuana in New Jersey, mainly because of a lot of movement from the media interviewing Stephen Sweeney, um, and then Phil Murphy's budget address, and then there's also a few articles that I read on NJ.com that I just wanted to go ahead and go over real quick. And this is actually probably going to be posted today, um, only because I don't really see myself editing it that much. I'm in the process of editing the Colorado video, and that's probably going to be multiple parts. So I figured I'll just knock this one out really quickly. Um, so on NJ.com, I'm going to go ahead and link to all this down below, but on NJ.com, decriminalizing weed instead of legalizing, it won't happen. NJ Senate President says, actually, hold on, I want to go back to this, because, alright, so, first I want to get clear, Phil Murphy in his budget address said this: I greatly respect those in this chamber who have proposed decriminalizing possession of small amounts of marijuana, and I thank them for recognizing the importance of doing what's right and just for those who carry criminal records for past possession arrests, Murphy said. But decriminalization alone will not put the corner dealer out of business. It will not help us protect our kids, and it will not end the racial disparities we see. He added, if these are our goals, as they must be, then the only sensible option is the careful legalization, regulation, taxation of marijuana sales to adults, Murphy continued. So I really think that kind of clarifies where he stands and his administration stands. He wants to go ahead essentially and back a bill that's very similar to Scutari's. Scutari's goes ahead and technically legalizes it, regulates it, and taxes marijuana. But it also goes ahead and imposes fines. It also limits the amount of sale for marijuana. So, I mean, obviously, I'm really biased against that bill. So, there's that warning out there. But Murphy goes ahead and kind of tips his hat toward, his Nick Scutari's bill. And bills that are like similar in that, mindset. When you go ahead and look at what Steve Sweeney says, there's 3 articles I'm reading from him. I'll go ahead and, put them on the, down below. But, basically, Stephen Sweeney says, I don't really, so the state's top lawmaker, State Senate President Stephen Sweeney, said Monday that he's opposed to a bill that would simply fine those caught with small amounts of pot, similar to traffic offenses. I really don't have an interest in it, Sweeney, Gloucester told NJ Advanced Media. I don't see it moving forward at this time. You're basically legalizing something that's not legal now. If you're going to do it right, regulate it, and manage it properly. So, to give you some background on this bill, it's sponsored by State Senator Ronald Rice of Essex and Robert Singer of Ocean. So it's, Ronald Rice is a Democrat, Robert Singer is a Republican. It's a compromise, basically, for the two sides. Under the measure, a person caught with less than 10 grams of cannabis would face a fine of $100 for the first time, $200 for the second offense, and $500 for future violations. Currently, offenders are subject to 6 months in jail, a $500 fine, or both. So, a State Assembly Minority Leader, John Bramnick, who's a Republican from Union, said that he supports that measure 100%. No one should be a convicted criminal and not be able to get a job because they had a small amount of marijuana, Bramnick said. So they're referring to this, the media and I guess the lawmakers, are referring to this as a decriminalization of marijuana, which is extremely false. This is not decriminalizing marijuana. I mean, I guess it is, it's lessening criminalization of marijuana, not decriminalization, but like technically, if you really look at those terms, I guess it's like interchangeable. But when we talk about removing marijuana from the criminal code, we're talking about removing all fines. We're talking about removing any state law that bans marijuana or allows anyone to do anything with marijuana. Like what Patrick Carroll's bill, for example, does is it takes marijuana out of the New Jersey Dangerous Controlled Substances Act, and it takes it out of the criminal code. So it decriminalizes it, but because it's not in those criminal codes, and because the state really has no direction to go ahead and be like, all right, well, I'm going to do a license for this or do a license for that, and it doesn't really have that much control over marijuana. There's nothing that says that if you have 500 pounds of marijuana, that's illegal, because it's not a crime to have marijuana anymore. It's not a crime to go ahead and, deal with, transferring marijuana. It's not a crime at all. So I think just when you go ahead and look at what these people are saying about marijuana legalization, it's scary, because, like, honestly, Murphy's position is bad because it gives the government a lot of control. This other really bad bipartisan bill is bad because it goes ahead and you're going to get fined for marijuana. Why are we going to fine people for marijuana? What's the logic in fining people for marijuana? First off, to prevent people from smoking marijuana. Dude, I smoke marijuana all the time. If I'm going to get a $100 fine for doing it, it's not going to stop me from it. It's just going to make me do it in a less, obvious way, so I don't get a $100 fine. It just doesn't make any sense why we're going to go ahead and go from, this really bad, literally authoritarian Scutari bill, and now we're gonna go to a slightly less authoritarian bipartisan measure that gives and attaches fines to marijuana. Now, mind you, this is not the only marijuana legalization bill in our legislature, in the state legislature, both the Senate or the Assembly, that goes ahead and tax fines. And a lot of these fine bills are actually sponsored by Republicans, which is really interesting, because, like, now they're going to go ahead and walk this fine line of, like, political suicide of, oh, well, if we go ahead and come out in favor of a free market and less socialism, basically, it's not that bad. We can go ahead and say, well, we didn't go ahead and support full socialism, we're going to go ahead and support slightly less socialism. Like, it's kind of like that logic. And there's, like, I've been reading a lot, and I guess I should go ahead and, like, share a lot, because, like, I could probably sound like a fucking, like, lunatic right now. But, like, honestly, like, if you go ahead and really understand what the drug war is and how the economics plays a part of it, it's both authoritarian and socialist in some respects, and that's largely because we have the state involved. I think that Michael Patrick Carroll's bill could be a good compromise bill just from this. Unfortunately, I think hopefully taxes stay a separate bill. We definitely don't want the government to go ahead and tax marijuana. That's a bad thing, no matter what. But I think that if we were to go ahead and make a compromise, maybe, all right, we're going to go ahead and pass Michael Patrick Carroll's bill the way it is, and both Sweeney and all these other Republicans and Democratic leaders might be on board with that. If, the Republicans that were like, look, we'll go ahead and, listen to your tax bill, later on that attaches to marijuana, but we can't do it right away. I think that might be a good, interesting compromise, because then at least that separates the two whole entire notions of taxing marijuana and legalizing marijuana, to, like, kind of acknowledge that they're not the same thing, that taxing is bad and legalizing is good. So I think that might be a good compromise. So I'm going to read this also from one of the articles in NJ.com. If the legalization bill does not pass, some advisors to Murphy will encourage him to push for a constitutional amendment asking voters whether they want legal pot, according to a source familiar with the situation. I am doing a video right now about Colorado's legalization. Their legalization was a constitutional amendment, which is a really bad thing to do, because, listen, constitutional amendments are really difficult to overturn. That's why we call them constitutional amendments. So I think that it would be a terrible idea for Phil Murphy to go ahead and back a constitutional amendment for marijuana, because I feel like what will happen is that it probably will pass, probably razor thin, honestly. It might shock some people, but I think it might be like 52 to like 47, or whatever that math is. It'll be pretty close, and I think that that would be even worse, because now it's like, all right, well, only 100 more people favor legalization than people who don't. You know, it's like, why do we have to have the government taking sides in this? We need the government to actually get out of this altogether, so we have the free market and we have that working. We don't need a regulatory market. We don't need all these licensing structures. We don't need all of this. We need marijuana that is not controlled by the government. And hopefully, you know, hopefully these people in Trenton can go ahead and get that idea. I think that Michael Patrick Carroll's bill, hopefully, cross my fingers, that might be the compromise bill, and maybe these, you know, wonderful leaders of ours need to take a chill pill and actually lead for once when it comes to marijuana, so we can actually get marijuana away from government control. So that is my take. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.